Okay, hello and welcome back to the Gordy and Gubbs podcast. I'm John Gubber, and as always, over in Seattle, the king of all cockneys, the one and only Gordon Hill. Gordon, what's new?
Well, thanks very much, John. Lovely to be on again. It's lovely to be able to talk about great things today, which I think everybody will be shocked to hear and read about. So, listen.
Well, later in the show, we're going to take a look at how the money in football has changed from the Tommy Docherty era when you played, of course, Gordon. I've got a mini quiz for you, just a bit of fun. And I think our viewers will, and our listeners, they'll all find it fascinating to hear how much Tommy Docherty got as a bonus when we won the FA Cup and how much he got paid as a salary. The stakes have certainly been raised for our current head coach, Ruben Amorim. And when we chatted in our last episode, it was after the Brentford game, and it felt like Ruben was close to running out of time. But since then, we've had back-to-back wins against Sunderland, followed by that late Harry Maguire winner at Liverpool. In my mind, it feels like Ruben has bought himself some time. But is this the launch pad for a new era? How important do you think it's going to be to beat Brighton at home at the weekend and keep that run going?
Well, I think it's very important. I mean, you go to Liverpool and you turn them over and you get 3 points, which is fabulous. It's always great to go to Anfield and pick up points. But because of the previous game as well, picking up 3 points, 6 points in 2 games, that's encouraging to see. But it's not so much that, John. I mean, it's a great result for everybody, and it's a great result for the boys. But now you've got to see it continue, because there's been so much downing on it. Now you're looking at the positive side and saying, well, okay, fine. And I rightfully agree with you there. He's bought some more time. So now we've got Brighton, and you know, people think, oh, it's only Brighton. Hey, tell you what, they want the 3 points as much as us, because they're not having too clever a time, but they can play. We've seen results, so very interesting, John. But yeah, it's a great start for the new week.
Absolutely. I know a lot of fans are kind of fascinated by the prospect of maybe signing something like Belieber, but I've watched Brighton a couple of times this season and he hasn't even started. He's come off the bench, so I don't know if he even play against United. And also we've got Kobbie Mainoo, who's obviously a big talking point, and it keeps going on and on. Will Kobbie Mainoo get to play for United and get to start? So it would be fascinating if we could see Belieber against Mainoo, but I don't think that's going to happen, because I guess the chances are they'll both be on the bench. But I know you often mentioned to me when we've been talking privately about, you think when they celebrated that goal, when we had the 3 players on the wall, Garnacho and Mainoo and Rasmus Højlund, it was, that they were kind of jumping the gun a little bit. And Garnacho now, of course, has gone to Chelsea and he's not exactly setting the world on fire. You know, how hard is it, do you think, now for somebody like Kobbie Mainoo, who is the last man standing, to sort himself out and get into that team, do you think?
Well, I did a great article during the week with Dale, which everybody can read, and I'll just reiterate exactly what I said. I gave some advice to Kobbie Mainoo about he's got to put everything into wanting to get into that first team. If he puts the work effort and he puts the shall we say, the training that he's already been done and that we read about and we heard about, that he was doing extra this, extra that, that's the only thing he can do. He can't go and force a manager to play him. If the manager doesn't want to play him and he's producing the training, he may get a chance. If he gets a chance, that's the biggest thing a player has to work at. Once you get that chance, you have to grab it with both hands. And my advice to Kobbie was, Kobbie, do everything you possibly can to get into it. You train hard, you work hard. If you're not selected, basically you try again, but there comes a time when he may not want you in that first team on the first 11. So you've now got to think to yourself, is it right for me to stay and fight? Because if he doesn't get a place. We've got to realise footballers have only got a limited time of playing. And for any player to say, well, I'm going to sit here, and we've seen it with previous players, Kobbie's got to be able to say, about time, I need to get to first team football. If it's not with Man United, it's with somebody else. So I'm not saying get rid of him. I'm not saying if we could keep him, but it's down to Amaran whether or not he selects him or not. But Kobbie, you've got to keep on training hard. You've got to put everything in. You've got to, yes sir, no sir, 3 bags full sir. I will do. Once you get your position in the team, if you don't produce it, you can't play. You can't blame anybody else. And that should be the competition, John, for every United player out there. Not because of who you are, but what you can do for the team. And I stated, it comes down to Kobbie wanting to be able to, manufacture it in a game day. If you get a chance, grab it with both hands and run. I can't say go, stay. You can't do that. Only he can do that if he's selected, and that's something that's out of our hands.
Absolutely. You mentioned Dale there. I'll put a link in when I find it, when Dale sends it to me. But
Yes.
It's Dale O'Donnell, who's a good United fan, and he writes for an online publication, and we'll put that description in when I find it. But on Kobbie Mainoo, I think it's quite frustrating for him, particularly because it's World Cup year. He wants to play, but sometimes I think the managers give you the clues when they're talking about players, and he says that his place is between him and Bruno Fernandes. So often as a journalist or an ex-journalist, as a filmmaker, I sort of read between the lines. So for me, Bruno Fernandes is still our best player, but because he's being played out of position, will he stay at United? You know, we've got this transfer window coming up in the winter, the winter transfer window, and I know he's been linked with Bayern Munich, and there is a thought that maybe Kobbie Mainoo is being kept in reserve until Bruno Fernandes isn't there anymore. Personally, I'd like to see them both in the team, but you can't fit everybody in the team. So maybe
No.
Kobbie's being kept there for when Bruno's not there anymore. But it's a case of, is he going to be happy hanging about? So maybe he should go out on loan. But then you need competition for places, like you say. All good football teams want competition for places. I'd like to move on to, I know you've been watching two of our old boys who are doing really well away from Old Trafford, and you obviously watch a lot of European games over in Seattle. Marcus Rashford is looking like a player with a new lease of life at Barcelona. But I'm particularly interested in what you think about Mason Greenwood, because he scored those 4 goals at the weekend. A lot of fans find it frustrating that he kind of burnt his bridges at United. Personally, I can't see him ever coming back to United because of what happened. And as a publicist, I think that could have been fixed a lot easier if him and his partner had come up in front of the cameras at the very beginning and explained what had gone on and apologised or whatever. But I think the way the club managed it made it almost impossible for him to come back. But I think the advice from people like you and me has always been go somewhere else and rebuild your life, rebuild your career. And he's doing a great job, isn't he, at Olympique Marseille?
Well, John, you remember that I had a private meeting with him before he went, and I knew that the problems he was having, and I knew that he may not recover from those situations because he upset a lot of people, and you're perfectly right. He could have come out and he could have confronted and been up straight up with him. But I gave him the advice that let your football do the talking. I'm not backing him up on anything he did, but it's football. And I said, get out, go abroad, get your football sorted out, and just concentrate on your football. And he's done that, and he's done that very successfully. He's gone over. He's now, as I said, he scored the 4 at the weekend. So when you're looking at this, John, and you're saying, wow, should we have kept him? Can we? It's very easy to say, yeah, if you've got Kobbie Mainoo, you've got Rashford, you've got Mason Greenwood, all being kept by the club. That means you're not going to buy other players. So scenarios come up with should we, did we, could we, have we? And it's a case of the manager deciding, okay, fine, he wasn't here. The situation with Mason Greenwood's been sorted out, so to speak. Rashford's been sorted out. And now you've got Kobbie Mainoo, who is now looking to say, if you're not going to play me, I need to get first team football. Loan him out if clubs can't afford. I would either get loaned out or want to move. And the problem being is that if the club you go to, you produce it, they'll want to keep you. So they're going to be in negotiations. So, yeah, I look at it, it's a tough situation. Do you sit there, train every day, sweat yourself to death, trying to prove something when you could be playing in another club and getting first team and playing. So I look at it there and I say, well, Kobbie, I've already given you my advice. I can't give you any more. I can't play for you, my friend. You've got to decide. And if you decide to go, then so be it. If you decide to go on loan, I wish you all the very best. If you decide to stay, you've got to know the consequences of wanting to stay at the club.
Absolutely. I mean, Marcus Rashford, of course, is still on loan from United, so there is a possibility he could even come back to United. But I think he looks a lot happier at Barcelona. And as a fan, I like to see our old boys doing well, whatever the circumstances of how they left. And I know we've got such a big fan base that, somebody like Marcus Rashford, you've got the lovers and the haters. But I want to see him do well and be happy in his life. So, he looks a lot happier at Barcelona. And I think, obviously, Thomas Tuchel likes him. He's keeping him in the England squad. So it could even be a good year for Marcus, couldn't it?
Well, all players don't go to another club to play bad. They go there to help them out. And I think basically you've got Rashford that's gone over there. You've got Mason Greenwood. You've got Rasmus who's gone to Napoli. You've got McTominay that's gone to... So you look at it and you've got to say, whoa, and I look at it and go, was there something dreadfully wrong at United for these players? And now they're producing it for other teams. And you're saying, well, we should have kept him. All the support, well, we should have kept him. The worst thing we ever did. It doesn't come down to what we think at the end of the day. We might say something, but it comes down to what that manager wants. We've talked about it, John. Amron should be playing this system. He's going to play what he wants. He's going to live by it, die by it. So whatever we say, whatever players they say, if there's a good player available, Man United are always going to be linked with that player. The rumours are going to come out left, right and centre. Whether you buy him, whether you don't, And so you're looking at a situation all the time of United are always going to be in for a good player, whether or not he fits the bill. But then you've got to look at the characteristics of a player. You have to look at what's his strength, what's his weaknesses, can he fit in, can he do this, Those are the type of things that you've got to look at as a manager. And his meat may be my poison, but he's in charge. And as I said, the results will tell you if he's changing everything around. The last two games, it looks a bit better, but it's, as you said, it's only, are they playing because it's Liverpool, or are they playing because they want it to carry on? They want to go to Brighton and get results, or Brighton come to United. And all these games have got to be looked at as we talk in a serious light by have to take one game at a time, not 4 or 5, we'll be okay next month. One game at a time. And the players that are out there have got to say to themselves, we've done it against the so-called best team. Now, let's do it and show people that we can play football and we're coming back.
I've kind of given up talking about the system that he plays, although I have seen some sort of modest little adjustments. I think he is changing it around a little bit. But the thing that I think one of the things that you mentioned last time was you wanted to see the players give everything. And I know I said this last time around, but I think Harry Maguire epitomises everything about giving absolutely everything for United. And Harry's a real powerhouse at both ends of the pitch. And his goal, of course, was the late winner against Liverpool. But I also thought the whole team gave everything at Liverpool. And as you said there, we've got to see it every week. But the one who really caught my eye at Liverpool was Matheus Cunha. And it's quite rare to see a flair player fight for the ball like we saw with Cunha on Sunday. And what do you think of him? Because statistically, he hasn't scored a goal or had an assist, but statistics can be very misleading. And for me, he's a good signing for United.
I think it's a good sign and will be a better player as he starts to understand. He's come into the team that has not been doing well and there's been chaos. So he's producing, and he's now, I think, realising that he can open and stretch his legs more and get stuck in. And I think he will do great. I think basically we're looking at a player there that has got the speed, got the potential, will score goals. What we've got to try and do is we've got to help him with other players around him. The one that you've just mentioned, Harry Maguire. I mean, I was asked the other day, who would I take from this team to put in my team in my era, and I said I would take Harry because he bleeds red. That shirt is on him. You're gonna have to scrape that shirt off of him because he's not the most talented player, but he'll give you everything he's got, and that's all that you and I have been asking for. I can tell you something about United supporters. You can lose, John, but if you give everything you got, they will not go against you. They will be behind you. And that's all you're asking for. Man United players have got to realise that supporters have seen the best in the world. And they are the best in the world. And the club is one of the best in the world. So their expectations are high, and I understand them, and I can thoroughly agree with them. And what we saw was, okay, that's a one-off game. Forget about the game beforehand. That's a one-off game against Liverpool. You've seen it. You've seen the top. Now let's see you go out and produce it again. Because, as I said earlier, you've got to beware of the ones at the bottom as well as the ones at the top, because you're not in the Premiership because you're rubbish.
As a fan, I mean, I fully endorse what you just said there. And as supporters, we want to see our players die with their boots on, to use an expression. And Harry Maguire is definitely a player that does that. And I'd love to see him get back in the England team and go to the World Cup, because I think he deserves it, to be honest. But now, one of the reasons Ruben Amorim has been given time, we're led to believe, is that to sack him before November the 1st would have cost the club £12 million, which is what we understand. And this week I received a note from a collector in Australia, and it really resonated with both of us, I think, when I told you about it, because it's a copy of the letter Tommy Docherty received in 1972.
Really?
Yeah, when he was appointed United manager. It's signed by Les Olive, the club secretary at the time. It really surprised me when I saw how much the Doc was getting paid and how much his bonus payments were if we reached certain targets. So here goes, Gordon. It's a little bit of fun, and it's more really for the benefit of the viewers and the listeners at home. And so I'm going to give you three choices. So for his annual salary in December 1972, do you think the Doc was going to be on 15 grand a year, 25 grand a year, or 50 grand a year? And I'm going to put the letter up in a minute when you've had a few seconds to think about it. I think you know the answer, but really sort of so the fans can have a think. And what would they choose, 15, 25 or 50 grand? So what do you think the answer is then, Gordon?
I think, knowing the Doc, I would say he'd go for something like 25 grand.
You'd expect at least that, wouldn't you? But the lowest figure, 15 grand, is what he was getting. I'm going to bring the letter up.
What?
It's hard to believe, isn't it?
Are you sure it's the Doc?
Yeah. And what's interesting is the letter was written on the 28th of December. And as it says, this is to confirm the financial agreement as follows, commencing on the 22nd of December. So he got the letter after he started the job.
Yeah, hold on. So he's done very similar to what I did as a player. Got paid after I joined the club, I signed for the club, and then found out what I was going to get. So the Doc has done exactly the same as what I did. Well, I tell you, that's unbelievable. 15 grand. 15 grand. Oh my God. No wonder the Doc wanted a car. 15 grand. I was on 15 grand.
Crikey. But I think where the Doc was different here is some guys might have already spotted it, but on the bonus payments, if we just go through them, for winning the First Division Championship, which we didn't do, he would have got 10 grand. But for winning a cup, either the FA Cup or the Football League Cup, his bonus was 8 grand.
Right.
So
8 grand? We only got a grand. 8 grand. Unbelievable. 2 of them. I mean, crumbs, I tell you what. This is unbelievable. Carry on, please, because I'm absolutely starved. My God.
So, okay, please. We've got for gaining entry into the European Fairs Cup, that would have been 6 grand.
He got that?
Yeah, 6 grand.
We made it.
Winning the European Champions Club Cup, which I suppose is the European Cup, you would have got he would have got 20 grand, which is more than what he was getting paid. So obviously, it was very much based on bonuses. And then for winning the European Cup Winners' Cup, 15 grand, and for winning the European Affairs Cup, 10 grand.
Wow, 10 grand. That's unbelievable. That that's unbelievable. That is 1 week's wages for a mediocre player. That's a mediocre player. You can understand now, John, why players sold their tickets.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
I mean, I'll be honest with you, and I'll tell people this. I got £1,000 and I had it taxed.
He had it taxed, crikey.
I had it taxed. And so I might have got about 400, 500 quid out of it at the end of the day. But I cannot believe it. 15 grand. I tell you what, you should give that letter to Sir James. You give it to Jim Ratcliffe, John, because I tell you what, that'd do him the world of good, to hear that. And then, hold on, and then if you get rid of Amron, he gets 12 million. Man, the doc must be turning in his grave.
I wouldn't want to give Jim Ratcliffe any bad ideas, to be honest, because he might think
No,
he's paying all.
no. Can you imagine saying that? He'll produce that letter in a deal meeting with one of the players. I'll give you 20 grand. And they said, what, a week? No, he said, for the year. And I saw in there that he got a car as well. The doc got a car as well.
It doesn't mention on the letter.
He does get transport.
Oh, he gets transport. Okay, not a bike. Duncan Edwards used to go on a bike, didn't
he? he got a tandem for him and Frank Blunstone, and it was parked at the training ground at not Carrington, but at the Cliff. But I can't believe, unbelievable. I'd have thought really that he would have been on maybe 25, and I said when you go to 50 in there, I don't think it would have been 50 grand, but 25 would have been closer to me. And to be honest with you, I mean, what I can't fathom out, John, that we were up the top, challenging, winning. So really, at the bottom line of it was you only got about 45 grand. That's made me sneeze.
Yeah.
That's made me sneeze. Oh,
it's made me smile.
Well, yeah, it's made me smile. It makes me chuckle because I tell you what, now it's like you can't get rid of them for 12 million.
I'm going to come back to a similar theme, but I was at Old Trafford on Friday sitting on the table with your old skipper, Martin Buchan, and we were guests of the world's oldest Manchester United supporters club in Malta.
Oh, bless. Joe?
Yeah, Joe Tesco and Joe Glanville, you know them well. It was a fabulous evening for the Manchester Munich Memorial Foundation annual dinner, and it raised nearly £20,000 for local charities.
Hold on a minute, John. I'm going to interrupt you. Could you tell Jim the contracts there were only worth about 15,000, so 40,000 wouldn't be a loss for him, surely, if he give it to the association to keep us running, so that former players can come and former players. Because I'm going to mention this, John, because this irks me. Big Joe Corrigan, fabulous person, great guy, has got an MBE for doing exactly the same with Manchester City. It's former association, and that's fantastic. And so they raise in money, and they get. What's the matter with what the association gets? What is 40,000 going to? Is it going to be a player's wages? Do you know what? Sometimes, John, I'm sitting here and we're talking, and the supporters and everything, and I'll be honest to every supporter, I'm absolutely gobsmacked with what I'm hearing and what is seeing, and 40 freaking grand. I don't understand. I just don't understand. To keep the memory and the former players, and don't forget that they raise money for charity whenever they do a golf do or something, and they are big drawers on that. I just scratch my head, John. I bow my head and I apologise. I apologise because it should be cherished. It should be cherished, the association, and it always should be. They build a museum. They sell tickets for the museum, and guess what? Guess whose gear goes into that museum?
Former players.
Our gear, my gear, Bucko's gear. Every player goes in there, and they say, "Oh, thanks very much. We only made 4 million last year with people coming in to see it. You can't afford 40,000. I'm sorry. You really disappoint me."
It does beg a belief that, you know, such a small amount of money has kind of almost ended the life of the Association of Former Players after
Yeah.
40 years. I wasn't going to mention this today, but I was at a meeting with some of the former players at Hotel Football on Sunday before the game against Liverpool, and we sat and watched the game together. But I can't go into all the details right now because we're still discussing it. But as things stand, the Association of Former Players has kind of been frozen out because of the gym taking away the 40 grand. But the players that there are players there, former players, who want to give it a bit of a rebirth, and we are. The next big event is going to be in April the 16th, which I did mention on the previous video on this channel. They've had to cancel the dinner that would have been in November because they haven't got enough money to do that. So the Association of Former Players is fighting for its life, but they are going to come back fighting, and we've got some great plans for next year, and I'm helping them to relaunch next year. We'll give details when they're ready, but just so that fans do know, there's going to be something coming on April the 16th. We're not even sure if it's going to be at Old Trafford because, you know, United have taken it for granted that when the Association of Former Players spend their money, they spend it with the football club. But as they're not giving them the money to spend in the first place, they're having to look elsewhere. But I'll come back to that one on another occasion. I just wanted to mark it so that fans can look out for it. But going back to the dinner on Friday night when I was sat with your old skipper Martin Buchan, that was a dinner.
Oh, bless him.
That was a dinner for the Manchester Munich Memorial Foundation, and it's their annual dinner. They raised nearly £20,000 for local charities. But one of the speakers was your old teammate Sammy McIlroy. Now Sammy talked about
Sammy.
how he thought he was rich when he signed as an apprentice on his 15th birthday. How much was he getting paid? £5 a week. Amazing.
I bet you he thought he'd won the lottery.
That's what he said. He said he thought he was rich when he got £5 a week on his 15th birthday.
Oh, that's fantastic. That was, I tell you what, you can't beat that, you know, and it's lovely to hear it, and it's lovely to see and hear that Sammy's still going well and coming up with fabulous stories. But you just when you just said £5, it's like, you know, whoa, £5, you've won the lottery, you know, you've won the pools, as we used to say. But that's fantastic. And was he good?
Oh, he was great. He had some great stories. I know £5 is different to what it was then, but it really just what it reinforces the fact that you guys played for the glory of playing for Man United. It wasn't just about the money. And he had some great stories about Georgie Best. He said when he made his debut, Bestie said that if he scored, he'd give him a bottle of champagne. And then he said he did turn up with a bottle of champagne on the Monday morning, and it was unopened. He said she was surprised about.
To tell you what, it's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. These players that we talk about, George, that will give you the shirt off their back, so to speak, but forget to do it. You know, yeah. Stan Bowles was another one that would borrow £5 from you or borrow £1 from you to give to a kid that was standing outside that never had any money, and then come back to you 4 days later and then say, could he borrow £5 because he wanted to go to the White City racetrack with the dogs. So it'll be and all the boys used to say, don't give Stan any money. He said, why is that? He said, because he'll be down White City. You'll find him down at White City. So all the players in the end went, Stan, no. But then his heart was as gold. He would take a pound out of his pocket and give to the kid. So it's fantastic. It's football stories. It's football players. It's real players, and it's the real, you know, the stories that we can tell and what we did, and we wouldn't change them for the world. I would never change it for the world.
No, Sammy Mack was full of some great stories, and I think that's one of the reasons that fans really love people like you and Sammy Mack, is because one, you were attractive flair players, but also you've got great stories and you like sharing them with the fans, because there's a good connection between the fans and the former players from your generation, and since. But then the modern generation, they get paid so much money that they kind of very much detach from the fans. So I feel like you've got this great connection, you and your era, and a couple of eras afterwards. There's still a great connection with the fans, and that's what keeps your popularity. I was listening to a great podcast that you did with your Millwall fans.
Oh, brilliant! Yeah, they're fabulous.
I wanted to give it a plug because it was actually about an hour and a half long. It was so long, but it was actually fascinating, and I'm going to dig out the link for that one and put that one in the description. But tell us about your times at Millwall, because I don't want you to repeat the whole hour and a half. But
oh my gosh, 3 hours. I said I'd do about half an hour, 45 minutes, and then 3 hours later, they were still asking me about the stories. But Millwall is a learning club that you do learn the game from the bottom, and it was fantastic. And when I signed for United, and I tell you, when I signed for United, it was a case of me going up there. They gave me a ticket to get to Piccadilly. They said, "Here we go." Gordon Clayton picked me up in the Doc's car that he got 15 grand a year for. So I sat in that, went to the club, and then I signed the contract. They're all sitting there. It's Tommy Docherty, it's Louis Edwards, and everybody. And then I signed, and Tommy Kavanagh and people. I signed, went out, came up, and it's the same story. I walked back upstairs. I said to Gordon Clayton, Gordon, hold on a minute, I've got to go and ask him a question. And I walked back up the stairs, and this is the gospel truth. Knocked on the door opened, and it still had the old sign on the outside, manager's room. It's like a signal, and it was like manager's office, and not on the door, but a sign.
Like a little thing that you put into in a holder, yeah?
A socket, yeah.
Yeah.
And I walked out, and I walked in, and they're sitting there, and they got champagne, and they got cigars. And I'm going, "Excuse me," I said, I know I've just signed. And they said, and I said, "Can I ask you a question?" What's that? I said, "How much am I going to get?" And I tell you what, and the doc turned, and he said, "Don't worry, son, we'll look after you." And then that was it. And it was, it's story time from then, and you become friends, and you become friends for life. The players are friends for life. You might not see them for 20 years, but you see them, and it's like you rekindle what's happening yesterday, so to speak. I don't see it in this game anymore. This game's gone. This game, to me, has saddened me. This game's gone. They take their money, and the foreign players, and you know my feelings on foreign players. I'm not going to hide them. They take it, go, see you later, bye-bye. And that's one of the reasons why, in fact, you think about it, the former association was so strong then, because not only did we have our players playing, we also had players from Man City and other clubs coming into our golf days to make it such an event. And fantastic event. But then now, they take it and say, "Thanks very much." You might not see him again. And I've always looked at the club and turned around and said, please don't forget the people that were prior to you, because you're not the history. The players and the ground is the history, and the supporters that have been there for 40, 50 years. They are the blood. They are the 50, 60,000 people. They're the ones that go every week. And I hold my hand up because, Millwall, John, as we talked about, they're the same on a smaller account. So you get a love and an affinity with them. And that's what I've always kept. An affinity with them, whether when they win or whether they lose. Am I happy or am I sad? Am I disappointed I'm not going to be able to change that. But what I've noticed just recently is that this ain't our game. This is a British game gone worldwide.
I think it's easier for a club like Millwall to keep that identity because it hasn't
Yes.
become such big business that it's become overshadowing the game. So for Millwall, for me, is always going to be Millwall because it's a local
Yeah.
club it's got that great connection between the fans and the former players and the players that play for them at the moment, because they're not too detached, because they're not like superstars earning ridiculous amounts of
No,
money. And the fans will always be there for the football club. The owners are like temporary custodians. They're not going to be there
that's
forever.
exactly right, John. Custodians.
Yeah, that's the way I see it. But also going back to the former players, for me, the former players are the custodians who represent the former players. You know, the football club, for me, they don't represent the former players, and the former players need to represent themselves. So one of the things I'm trying to encourage them to do is to be the mouthpiece for anything that needs to be said about former players. When anything happens to a former player, that they should be the ones that the media go to get a comment, and they should be the ones that are quoted.
Yes,
Those are the ones because they're the ones that are going to keep alive the legacy and the history of the former players. That's all part of the plan, and I think that's what I'm quite excited about helping them to do with my sort of ability as a media and content creator, to help them create the content. Some of it already exists because I've been doing it for years, where I've been creating content which does remember some of these older players, and I think it's important that the former players take ownership of it, and that's what I'm trying to get them to do. And I know that
yeah,
there's an enthusiasm to do so. So I'm quite excited about what the possibilities are. But they need some help to get kickstarted again with some proper cash from sponsors, and to get those sponsors, we're going to need some big names. So that's part of the plan, without giving you the specific details.
yes,
But
yes, yes.
anyway, another thing that happened this week, I just want to share with you before we go, was, I know, talking about former clubs and former, I want to show you something else that I dug up. If I can big up the right, that's the letter. The one I'm looking
Wow.
for that's the wrong program. Where's it gone? I've lost it. There you go. So
Oh,
sent to me by another fan collector, and this was a game that was happening after the FA Cup final. Man United, the English Cup finalists, obviously when we got beaten by Southampton against Chicago Sting. Tell us what you remember of this occasion.
well, to be honest with you, I'd been at the Chicago Sting, a great club that is not around anymore, but was a great club, and they wanted to like make a mark in US soccer, and they wanted to do it well. And Lee Stern put his money in and said, right, okay, we want Chicago to be one of these. We played at Soldier Field, uh, which is the like a coliseum. You know, it's that brilliant. It's that big. But we only have about 3,000-4,000 people in them days that came to the game. So you'd run out like a coliseum, and there was nothing in front of you, and then behind you there was 3,000 people and a dog sitting there just waiting for you to play. But you created it. You started to create it, and that game was I got that game. They said, "Oh, it'd be great to get United." United have agreed to it because I'd played for Chicago Sting, and I actually helped the franchise when it first started. So I was part and parcel of them kicking off. But the nice thing about it was that I was supposed to go over and play in that game with United, but it was the bicentennial. And so what happened was I got called up for England, and you don't normally turn down England. So I went on the bicentennial to Los Angeles, to Philadelphia, but we didn't play in Chicago, and I couldn't get to the game to turn up because people said they're waiting to see you, so to speak, and I couldn't do it, but I always remember it. And the Sting was one of the clubs I came to when I came back after finishing my football, so-called top football in England. I played for them, and I came back to the Chicago Sting. But it's a hotbed for football. Has been. They've now got the Chicago Fire, which is their team, the new one. But it was everybody knew the Sting. Everybody knew the Sting, and of course, you're looking at the New York Cosmos with Pele. So people say, oh, all the players that are coming over now and playing, but the NESL then was the father of the game, is the father of the game. The North American Soccer League held so many great players that you go, really? You had Naskins, you had Cruyff, you had Beckenbauer, You had Mike England. I mean, I can go. You had Georgie Best. Myself came across. You're just talking loads and loads and loads of top players to make the game go, which was fantastic. Chicago Sting was one of them. New York Cosmos, Fort Lauderdale, Seattle Sounders, which is fabulous because they're the founding group really, and they are still going today, and they are going as strong as ever. So, the birth of the North American Soccer League was something to be cherished, and I loved it. But when I went back from Chicago Sting and back to my club at Millwall, and then got sold to Man United, the person that was in charge was unbelievable, lovely guy. I got to know very well, and a former Man United player, and I'm going to give you his name, Bill Folks.
Bill, I thought you were going to say Bill Folks. Yeah, yeah.
Bill Folks, Bill and I, we used to sit there, and do you know what? Bless his heart, Bill would never talk about Munich. And I tell you what, and he'd sit there, and that's the history. I was there to play for the history, and now we are the history. So it's, you come, and it was like, you look, I used to sit there sometimes and go, my God, what must it have been like? And I talked to several of them from the Munich area, and I wouldn't mention it at all. I wouldn't mention it at all because it was such a sad loss. So that's why I think as well, that's why the association should be remembered, John. I really do. I mean, because we'd always have a dinner and in celebration for these players that were great players that lost their lives for the club. So Chicago was very, very close. I'm very close with still a lot of people in Chicago. The league, the MLS is going and it's getting stronger, which is fabulous for football. Soccer's growing. But yeah, that day I was in Los Angeles, and I think it was the first time we flew, John, or the first time, or maybe the second time I flew, and we had to stay in Boston the night because we had a cracked windscreen on our jumbo.
Crikey.
So it makes you think, but I tell you what, like they're memories that they're etched in your mind forever. And the friends that I made as well, I still say hello to most of the players that played in them days. And it's great because you find out what they're doing. You find out what they've done after the game. And then you meet people that have watched you. So, yeah, as I said earlier, memories, you're never going to be, you'll never take them from me. Watching it now, and I'm watching now, believe it or not, when we're talking Barcelona, and I'm going to ask you, this is a quiz question at the moment. It's 85 minutes, and please guess the score.
It's I think it might have been 2-1. I don't know. I know Barcelona
Right.
did they score the first two goals?
Right, okay. I think Barcelona got a bit upset. It is now Barcelona 6.
Crikey. Okay. You heard it here first. By the time it comes out, the game would be long.
I tell you what, that's unbelievable. 6-1. I've been talking and watching and it's like, oh crumbs. Have you upset them?
I think you upset him when he got that first goal, didn't he? Because it was 2-0.
I showed you the penalty.
Yeah, you showed me the penalty. Yeah, I've had to cut that out because we can't show the penalty.
That's the only one they've scored. Oh well, but anyway, no, that's football.
A great multitasker, Gordon, and also you've got some great memories. And I think I'm going to show this video to the committee, the Association of Former Players, because I think part of the reason for keeping them going, apart from the obvious, is that they should see it as a social club where you guys can share your memories and keep them alive. Because if you're all living in isolation in different parts of the world, like you're in Seattle, these stories get forgotten. So I think it's important that you share them among your teammates from different generations, so people know what happened in the past.
Well, I tell you, all I'm going to say to the people that are so-called people that club, I said, say goodbye to the Munich because it's history. You're forgetting it. even though those players gave up everything and they were unfortunately in an accident that we didn't know, tell them that they're forgotten. Tell them they're not in the history. Tell them they're not part of the club. We're not talking about the players that are alive. Tell them that it can't carry on anymore. Because I tell you what, if you can stand there and hand on heart, turn around and say, I don't care about it, then I tell you what, like, don't even put me down as Man United, please. Because the Duncan Edwards, my goodness gracious, Peggy, Taylor, I yeah, I just can't, there's no words that I can say it, John, because as I said, if you take away what we've got, what we're talking about with former players, I'd love to have them former players at the dues now, but we can't. They passed away. So, yeah, you stay in the future. If you want to stay in the future, don't put me in it.
We can't have those former players there that aren't with us, but we can honour them by showing what we can. That we've still
Exactly,
got.
John. That's
I mean,
exactly. We can honour them.
we can honour them by giving them a presence, whether it's on the website, social media, showing clips of them that exist on the dinners that we go to
Yep,
in the future, hopefully. But I think the thing that we have to remember, or the people that own the football club have to remember, is that the football club and what it's become, the biggest supporters club in the world, is built on the backs of the players who've made the football club in
correct.
the first place. So, you know,
Correct. That's it.
they owe it to the former players to look after them, and that's the thing that
Yeah.
really, to me, I find it disgraceful that they don't do so already. But I'm hoping that the players now can get together and do it for themselves. So that's where we are. But
Yeah. But John, what I'd like to say on this note as well is I've got to bring this up, and I was going to say it at the end is my heart and my prayers go out to Stuart Pearce for the loss of his son. Um, no man should be burying their kids, and Stuart, my heart and my prayers go out to you. Um, there's no more I can say on this. My heart and prayers are with you, my friend.
you said it; it's absolutely heartbreaking, and I think all players stand together when they hear this news, and fans as well. So we all second that thought and that
Yes.
emotion, Gordon.
Yeah.
So well said. Anyway,
Yeah.
on a trying to lift
On
the
a
mood and say goodbye
on a
before we
nice
go because I know
note,
you've got to go.
that's
I think you've
right.
got to go training, haven't you? So
I have, yes. I've got my little. The beauty that always lights me up is that I develop young players. And last evening I was with 8 and 9 year olds indoors playing, and it made my day. And then today I'm going to meet 2 or 3 coaches that I've got underneath my belt, and just to reiterate what this game is all about and how simple it is. And if I can do that and spread the word, then I'm happy as a pig in muck.
yeah, yeah. Well, thanks as always, Gordon, for your time, and I hope we put a smile on a few people's faces, and we've kind
I
of
hope so.
restored some faith in what the game has got, and hopefully we can
Yes.
not lose sight of this beautiful game because it has become a little bit. I must admit, for me, football's become a little bit boring. It's become too
Boring.
predictable. It's
Yeah.
become like a chess match, and I miss, and I know a lot of fans do. We miss players like you, Gordon, who were players
Thank
that
you.
went off piste. Do you know what I mean? You weren't working to a script, and that's for me what's missing
No,
with football these days.
no, I totally agree with you, John. And um, will it come back? I don't know, John. That's another $64 million question. I don't know if it'll ever be the same again. I'll move on with the times. I've always, as a coach, I move on with the times. There are new things coming out. Yes, I know all about these new things, but one thing I would say to all these so-called academics and all these people, football is a simple game, complicated by coaches. The simpler you can keep it, the better performance you'll have.
Fantastic. That's one of our common themes that we've mentioned a few times. But well said, Gordon.
Yeah.
And that note, that happy note, that positive note. Let's say goodbye, and I'll see you next time. I'm going to go back to my other hobby. Going
Okie
out.
dokie.
I'm going out dancing now. So
Oh, oh, the gigolo, the Marlow gigolo's out again.
Cue the
Well,
music.
we seek him here, we seek him there. We cannot find him anywhere except the dance floor.
I'm heading to the dance
Well,
floor.
all the best, John.
You're heading to the football pit. See you later, Gordon.
All right, mate. Bye. Bye,
Bye.
all.